Hi, this is Courtney, and I've got Kimberly with me, and today we're going to do a quick look for Social Mobile Local Marketing Pros at how we're tracking our traffic, how we're looking at measuring exactly, how many clicks came through from what Courtney posted or what Kimberly posted. So I showed Kimberly this one yesterday, and Kimberly, you said we have to show people how to do this, right?
Yes, absolutely.
What we are looking at right now is we have a webinar coming up that we're looking to promote, and it's about Google Plus. So we're sending announcements out through Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn and Google Plus and all of these other places, and we want to see what's going on from where. So what we're doing is we want to cut this big long address. So I'm just going to cut it. And then we go to a tool from Google Analytics. You could get there by putting in Google Analytics tool URL builder just into a search engine. It's Google Analytics tool URL builder. And so if you do a search for that, it will come up right away, but I'm sure I could put a little link in the replay area and in the info of the video. So when we get here, what this tool will do is help you track exactly where the clicks came from. So I'm putting in first off, I'm pasting in just that link from our site into this area that says website URL. So just paste it right in there. And then there are 3 fields below that must be filled in to get this custom link for tracking. It is the campaign source, the medium, and then the campaign name. So at this point, we're primarily interested in tracking campaign names, meaning identifying did the click come from Kimberly or from Courtney. But these other 2 fields, you can get into customizing. If you happen to be using AdWords tools, things like that, this gets to be really important in that arena. For what we're doing, we're just tracking where the click come from. So you can see you have some examples here. Campaign source. Well, our source is social media, so I'm going to abbreviate social media. You could see here that you could say that it's in your newsletter or something like that. And then the medium, it could be, I'm going to put in the word online, but if you wanted to put in, if this were part of an email, you could do that. So if it were a newsletter, that would be your source. If it were being sent over email, it would be the medium. And then in the area that says the name, we're putting in unique identifiers, and in this case, I could put in either my shorter name or my full name there. And the last step to this is that I will generate my URL. Wow, that highlighted everything. So I'll just click on the generate URL option. And so what that did was it makes the link even longer. So it's the same as this address up here, but it makes the link even longer. And you can see where it says UTM and all of that. And so I can cut this address, just highlight and cut the address. So let's grab that. And the next thing is, obviously, if I'm going to Twitter, I don't want a long link. I don't want the link to be even longer than it already is. So Google has a really handy little service called Google URL Shortener. And you could get there by simply typing in goo.gl, goo.gl, and then you will paste your link into this very top area and tell it to shorten. So this gives you a shorter version of that link. What that will do is I can now use something that's that short appropriately in Twitter and Facebook and places where I might not want a long link to appear. It will still give me the credit of somebody clicking on that big long link that I made earlier. So it's going to show it just the same as if somebody clicked on the longer version of this link. It will show up in this area just as shorter. And as an example, here's one that I've been using for the past few days promoting this webinar. So it tells me that I've had 54 clicks in the 2 days that I've been using it. It will tell me the regions that people were clicking on it. So I could see what countries people are using, the browsers, the platforms. So I could even see somebody's clicking on it on a mobile device. They're using a BlackBerry to get there. That's pretty handy to know, as well as what sites they're using. So it doesn't account necessarily for everything. It says unknown, but it tells me if it's Facebook or Google Plus or Twitter.com, or a lot of these are going to be they're using a Twitter client like Hootsuite or TweetDeck or something like that. So this tells me they're clicking on my big long version of the address. And then the last step in this process, and Kimberly saw some of this before, is if I go to google.com/analytics, We're going to access, and if you've configured Google Analytics to get set up and rolling, you can see where your traffic is coming from. So if I scroll down to look at our site, here's our site, and I'm going to just click to enter into Google Analytics. I'll look at this area that says traffic sources, expand it so it says incoming sources. So here we see traffic, and then we see incoming, and the next step to this is that we want to see campaigns. So if I look at this area that says campaigns, you'll now see here are ones that I am using. So this tells me our first webinar, I use that as my campaign name. On our second, or on my own website, on everything I put out on my own website, on CourtneyEngle.com, I have a little signature file that says, hey, do you want to learn how to use social media, local SEO, mobile marketing, etc.? Click here and go over to SMLMP. So it's telling me that based on where I've put those versions of the long address, how many people are clicking through to get there. So it's showing me the exact traffic coming in. And it could tell me additional information like how long did they stay on the site, how many of them were new visits to the site, did they leave, etc. So you can see some additional statistics over here. But this is just a great way that you could track, you know, if I'm sharing a link to come to this page, but I want to know who clicked on my link versus who clicked on Kimberly's link, this is going to be where that starts to show up. It takes about a day or two for the information to show up in here. But if you're using that Google Analytics tool URL builder, again, it will give you that great information to show you who's clicked on what, how'd they get there, what things are working and what are not. So it's a way that you can measure, did they click on it because of email? Did they get here because of Facebook or Twitter, or because Kimberly shared it or Courtney shared it or what have you? And then the goo.gl, all that did was just shorten it for us. It still passes that same long link authority for tracking purposes onto our Google Analytics. So Kimberly, does that help?
Absolutely. It helps so much, Courtney. It's so important to track and measure, like you said earlier, what's working and what's not working. And I want to get better at doing this. And this was a great video. I promise I'm going to go back and watch this over and over again and be sure to start tracking the links and tracking where my traffic's coming from. So
Sure.
thank you. That was very helpful.
Absolutely. And as I'm thinking about this might be a good way for us to track our email efforts that go out as well. How to know which people are clicking the link to sign up on the webinar just based on the emails.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, Courtney.
Uh-huh.